as well as they are. And Lord, we just pray that you just continue to bless us and keep us, bless each administrator, each principal, each worker in the system, Lord. Bless our students and their parents. And Lord, we just pray we'll have a blessed school year. We thank you for this opportunity to serve as board members. And we just pray that we'll vote on policies and procedures that are in the best interest of our students and school system. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please note that Mr. Morris Moody, Missy Lane Jones, and myself are all present, and Miss Billy Daly and Mr. Mike McMillan are absent. Approval of agenda. The superintendent recommends approval of the meeting agenda.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? At this time, we'll have Mr. Craig Hodge, our CSFO, to provide budget hearing number 1 for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Y'all have a book in front of you. I also emailed you the copies of it Friday, but I updated it yesterday after I found an error on it. So I just want y'all to make sure you have that. It is available to the public upon request. I will email it to you guys for that. Good morning. First of all, let me thank the board for agreeing to meet and having this meeting today. It's not a normal meeting, and so we appreciate you taking the effort and the time to come out for this. And I appreciate that we do have a quorum today. There are a few things that we are required to present for the 2022-23 proposed budget, and so let's get into it. See if I can get this going. All right. These are the things we're required to present. The total amount of resources available to the board from all funding sources. The projected enrollment and expenditures is another requirement, and you'll see those forms when we get to them. They're also in your booklet. We are required to present the total number of personnel earned and employed at each school. The presentation must include a clear list of operating costs by category and function at each school. And finally, we are required to present resources earned by school. This presentation, along with the handouts, will cover all of these requirements. And due to time constraints, if we went through every little detail of it, it would take 2 or 3 days to go through it. But we will just present the general fund at this time. But we will reference the items in the handouts as we move forward. Okay. This is the B1. This is the budget that we propose to the state, and it will be delivered to the State Department like this. It's a very broad view of the budget, and we will get into some details in the future as we progress through the presentation. First of all, let's look at the revenues. This is the total proposed revenues for the year. We look at our general fund revenues on another slide. As you can see, our total projected revenues for 22-23 is
whereabouts is the revenue? I want to keep up with you, but
okay.
Where is it in
the slides are actually on the back. If you follow the slides in the book, they're located on the very back portion of the.
Kind of hard to see.
Yes,
Right
there. They're in your booklet. Their last 5 or 6 pages.
Thank
And then, as we go through, these, the full form are in the booklet. I don't have them page numbered. I'll try to endeavor to do that next time. Our total projected revenue for 22-23 is $48,253,050, right at $56. This is actually less than last year. The amount of the 4% raise, and we were supposed to increase our foundation by 4%, but we also lost roughly 4% in ADM. So it ended up being a balancing figure for our foundation program. We didn't, I think it was a difference of like $11,000, $11,000 or $12,000 between last year's and this year's foundation program. Also, there was an increase in our 10 mil match that we have to match the states that participate in the foundation program. And that's because the Mercedes-Benz plants came online and we received more money from them, and therefore our 10 mil match actually went up accordingly. And so that actually reduced our general fund revenue slightly. Pardon me. Now, also, last year, I also included the full amount of the, in the special revenue, I included the full amount of all the ESSER money. This year is only what we have left of that money is in there. Now, the special revenue figure is all the federal funds there, including child nutrition, IDEA, ESSER money, the title money, all of that is included in that. And I want to say that most of our federal funds stayed pretty even as far as our allocation this year. I do want to remind you, we also, one other thing we lost was the teacher stabilization funds that we got last year, which was $800,000. That was a one-time funding from last year, so that we lost that. So that's not included. Pardon me. I do want to remind you too that the ESSER 2 has to be spent by September of 2023, and ESSER 3 by September of 2024. So we still have, now we have to spend all of our ESSER 2 this year, but ESSER 3 we have some time on. Going on down the list, your debt service is just that. That's our debt service. And the largest portion of that is the 1 cent sales tax that we have for the 2015 refunding agreement. Also, yeah, that's the majority of it right there. And actually we have some more that should be on there. I think I missed a number on that. And that would be our 2020 bond repayment. That should be in there as well. So I'll have to go back and look at that number. The remainder is mostly the leverage funds. The capital projects fund is state public fund revenues, and the fiduciary funds are the non-public school funds. Those are, oh yeah, it's in there. Okay. So, I'm sorry that I had to talk to myself a little bit on that one. The next slide is our proposed revenues by source. Excuse me. So, $25,712,000. That is our state funding. Our federal funding is the 14,512,000, and then our local funding is the 7,896,000. The other category includes items such as E-rate, CMP rebates, and payments made on behalf of the school system by the State Department of Education. Those are also our leveraged payments that when we leverage our capital funds to pay a debt service that the state pays for us, that's where that would show up. The next slide is actually just in graph form. I think it's a little easier to see. And you can see that 53% of our funding is from the state, 30% is federal, and 17% is local revenues. Okay. Now, this this breaks down our general fund revenues, which this is the board's only fund with discretionary funds, and that's loosely because we have very little discretion on how we spend these funds. State funds are mostly designated for certain expenditures, and what little funds are discretionary do not nearly cover the district's expenditures. Our local revenues are discretionary, however, and a large portion of those revenues are used for items such as utilities, maintenance, and our district is using a lot of the ESSER funds that we can for that kind of thing right now. So we're trying to alleviate some of those things that our local fund would have to pay for. Okay. Now this is next slide is this in the graphic format. Our state revenues make up 83% local and state. Sorry, I had that wrong. 53 and yeah. Our federal and state is 83% of our total budget. Local revenues are the other 17%, and a little bit of other revenue. Just a very little bit. All right.
Is that the same slide in here twice? Looks like the same slide as the first pie graph we had. Looks like.
It should be.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to go back and look at that. All right. I may have missed copying the correct graph over. I apologize for that.
Yeah, it is.
All right. The next slide here is the proposed expenditures for 2023. And this is pretty similar to last year. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of changes on that. But let me explain. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. Instructional services are and teachers and whatnot. Instructional support is what we do to help the teachers. Operations and maintenance are help maintain the buildings. Auxiliary services include our transportation and child nutrition program. Other expenditures category includes items such as our preschool program and extended day program. Those two make up the bulk of the other. And of course, debt service is pretty well self-explanatory there. All right. Now this is a graphic representation of the expenditures. And the instructional services and instructional support services make up 65% of the total expenditure, which is really kind of what we're here for, is to instruct, and that's where the majority of our expenditures need to be. All right, and this is from the general fund perspective, the expenditures, instructional services support, instructional support, operations and maintenance, auxiliary services, and so on. All right, and this is a graphic representation of that. On our general fund, 73% of our general fund expenditures are budgeted for instructional support. I'd also like to point out that nearly 87% of the general fund are budgeted for salaries and benefits. That's where the majority of our funding goes. Now this is the staff earned, and this is the total sheets for the district. If you'll, I'm gonna turn a minute to your book and go, it's about halfway in, I think is where it starts, right before the salary schedule. You'll have some sheets that look like this in your booklet, and it's like right before the salary schedules. Okay, that's the sheets we're fixing to talk about now. They're called the P1 and P2s, attachments actually. The P1 is the whole system breakdown, and the sheets following break it down by school. So let's talk about the staff earned this year. We had a total enrollment of, our ADM was 2938.05, which is the, what do they call it, the 40-day report or the 20-day after Labor Day. I can't remember which one they actually call that now, but that's the enrollment number based on that report, and that's where our funding comes from. So our funding for next year will be reported in about 20 days from now. We earned 173.12 teachers, 8 principals, 2.5 assistant principals, 6.5 counselors, and 6.5 librarians. A vocational director actually says 2, but that's technically one for each school, but we have the 1, so that's good. We use that other unit for our teacher unit, and we have a vocational ed counselor. And this also shows the funding for our foundation program. Let's go to the next slide that actually shows that. Our foundation program funding, where the salaries and fringe benefits and other current expenditures make up the majority of that. And then you have our classroom instructional supply funding is that next little section, starting with 177,000 for student materials, and that is $700 per teacher. Is that right? Yep. Then our technology allocation, our library enhancement allocation, professional development, and then our textbooks, which we got $220,354 for textbooks. Now you'll see that total number is from foundation programs $20,627,312, and then less our local match. And like I said, that local match actually went up this year compared to last year. And actually, on the sheet before the P1, if you look at this sheet here, is the sheet right before the P1 there. That actually has a comparison from last year, and you can see the difference. Like our difference from previous year's foundation to last year's foundation was actually our to this year's foundation was $12,822. So that's the difference in our foundation program from year to year. So you can look and see the allocation differences there, for the state allocations. And you see where our, 10 mil match went up. All right. Now, this is the breakdown of the enrollment and employees, based on projected enrollment or employees, where our employees are. Currently, we have 172.75 units, teacher units state earned. Other state units, that is going to be your, like your OSR preschool, our reading coaches, those salaries break down into the other state. And then federal, of course, is going to be your title or ESSER 2 or ESSER 3 units. And we were able to use a lot, thank you, Ms. Dennis, we were able to use a lot of ESSER 3 to pay for units that would be those half unit, like an assistant principal at all the schools, and the half of the counselor that wasn't paid for by the foundation program. We used ESSER 3 this year. Normally you have to try to figure out how to use your foundation units, your actual teacher units to cover those. And so we were able to use mostly ESSER 3 to cover those units. So those are the federal teacher units. And you'll see where the library shows a unit there, and counselors 2 units, and administrators 3.53 federal units. Now, part of that is also like Ms. Dennis's salary, part of her salary, part of Ms. Downs' salary is considered in that administrator's portion. We did have a little bit of local stuff that we did have to pay for locally, mostly the non-certified support personnel, and that is mostly maintenance that we're paying for locally. Okay.
The funds for maintenance, all of them local or local funding?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We either use what we call the other current expenses in the foundation program, or we use our general fund, local general fund, to pay for maintenance. Technically, it's supposed to come out of local funds, but if we have enough OCE, we try to pay it from the
I'm
foundation
gonna ask you
program.
this. Is there room for more maintenance personnel?
I
think we need them.
I agree with you. I think we do too.
So according to this, we have 5 people working in maintenance. Is that right?
We have, let's see, Oscar, yeah, we have 4, Shamaris, James, what's the other new guy?
Jimmy and Ryan.
Jimmy and Ryan.
Who's that?
That's 4.
Mr. McGee, who sets the priority on maintenance? Like if it's things in need,
Maintenance
all the time, there's things in need, I say all the time, just to use an expression, but
the maintenance supervisor would be Mr.
he makes
Williams.
that decision. All right, here's what concerns me. You know, we went over and looked at the Bibb County High School band room, and I don't know where I got it, but my understanding, nothing's been repaired. That may not be true. I don't know who told me that, but I didn't go back over and ask them. Not my job. But that concerns me. And then just the other day, a person from the middle school told me they got a gym door they can't lock. They were complaining to me about that. So that's what I'm asking. Who decides when they're gonna do that and what they're gonna do first?
Mr. Mims decides that, and I know on the doors at the middle school, they've been ordered. New doors have been ordered. it's like everything else that we order. They don't get them to you the next day or the next
Right, I
day,
understand.
but they've been ordered. The work at the band room, a lot of that, when we were over there and we were talking.
Now, they had
that
a
would-
door issue too besides.
Right, same sort of type of issue.
Right,
But, you know, some of the others, like door hardware and doors, we had the same thing at Randolph with the storm shelter at Randolph about 3 years ago. Took forever for us to get door and door parts. So when you say, well, is it a priority? Well,
I
he
understand
makes
where
the
you-
order for the parts,
I
but you
understand
can't,
that comes into the order
can't
when it
put
gets
'em-
fixed.
you can't
When it
actually
gets
fix it
when
until the
parts
part
get
gets
here.
there, right?
Alright, let me go back to the number of people we got employed.
Yes, sir.
What, you say 4?
There's 5 total.
5 for the whole county?
Okay. You got,
Is that it, who's that include? And what's their job? Do you know?
it includes, let's see, was it Ryan?
Oscar Mills,
Oscar,
And he's the director.
he's the director.
Jimmy Johnson,
Johnson,
And what's he do?
James
James Junkin,
Junkin,
Chavaris,
James,
and
Ryan Epperson. And
and Ryan
Ryan does during the summer and fall, he's the one that does all the grass cutting.
What do they do the rest of the year?
Helps.
They filled in fixing stuff. You think I don't know, I'm just asking this, do you think the budget would include maybe a salary raise for these employees? Because I get that gripe too, as a board member, that they're not paid enough. Which could be true for everybody in the system, that's about a year, but is there a turnover problem by not being able to
well,
make enough money to live off of?
We increased the salary for maintenance about 3 or 4 years ago
Right.
when we added, different, different certifications. In other words, we originally just said a maintenance worker's a maintenance worker, but
Yes.
we created higher salaries if they had HVAC certification or if they had plumbing certification or electrical.
Do any of them
So-
have that?
yes, Chavaris is HVAC, I know, and one of the other
I
ones
understand that, Mr.
is
McGee,
close
but
to it.
But to answer your question, we did raise salaries, but are they high enough to compete with the private sector? They're close. I mean,
Are these 12 months?
they're 12 month.
They're all
They're
12
12 month, and, you know, that's,
We did add one add one extra, cause last year we only had, we were one less. Cause when Kaysen moved over to the computer, we hired 2 maintenance guys at that point to replace Kaysen.
That's Johnson and Junkin.
Right. So we've
Either
added,
one. So other than Mr. James having HVAC, is the other
one of
ones-
those does, or is very close to getting,
Jimmy, I think Jimmy has electrical and HVAC.
okay,
James has it, but he doesn't have the experience
Right.
that goes with it.
you gotta,
He's just recently gotten his, and you have to have like 3 years
under a
actually
supervisor.
using, you know,
recently gotten HVAC?
HVAC, right before he was hired. And
Right.
after 3 years, he'll move up to the HVAC qualifications. I think you have to have 3 years of HVAC experience with the certification.
right.
So he's close, so we got 2 that have it, plus Oscar, and 1 that's close. Three that have it. Yes. Two plus, yeah, that's right, 2 plus Oscar and the other one that's close. And 1 that does not.
going back to part of my question, with new buildings being built,
Yes, sir.
which we've got several, and they're nice, anybody ought to be proud of them. And I hope they don't need any maintenance for structural design or wiring, plumbing and so forth for a while. We know eventually they will. But, I'm just concerned that stuff going unfixed and I understand, I appreciate what you said and I understand, Mr. McGee, that things don't, you can't run down to the local hardware store and buy some of these parts because they're not designed that way. But do you think we've got enough employees, personnel? Do we have enough personnel to maintain it?
I think we could always add another, it seems like.
Now, I mean, I don't wanna waste money if it's not needed naturally, but.
A couple of things we've discussed is, before we added the one that we did add.
Right.
And so we really don't know how much impact that's made on maintenance yet, because he's only been with us for what, about 3 or 4 months. But one of the other things we discussed is, having a custodian at each, a north end custodian and a south end custodian / maintenance guy that can do the.
I was gonna ask what definition, what category they come under, cause.
Well,
Go back to maintenance, those 5 people. Roughly what's their job description, just what would it be? I know you don't want to prepare for this question, but.
What happens is they're supposed to be able to pretty much repair anything in the school system. That's the idea. There are going to be things that they cannot fix that require getting a contract maintenance person that comes like from a company that works on stoves, for instance. You might have to do that on occasion because it's a little too technical or whatever. But what happens is you get inundated with filter changes and light bulb things, and like replacing an outlet cover. Some things simple that custodians used to do at the schools when there was a lot more responsibility put on the custodian. And so when those tasks go undone, it creates other maintenance issues. And so when you have so many light bulbs and filters that need to be changed, it pulls you away from, hey, I need to fix this HVAC, or this HVAC is more serious, so there's other
That
things.
goes back, do we have enough personnel? Do we need an extra guy? If they're overloaded like that.
That's a good question. Like I said, we added one extra one about 4 or 5 months ago, and so I'm not sure if we've seen the results of that yet. Also, one of the other things, we have approved them to get overtime to come in on weekends and try to get.
Yeah, but they
knockouts
don't
on
want
this
to,
thing.
is what we've been told.
Well, we did pay some overtime last.
Wait, what did you just say? I didn't hear it.
That is
Some
exactly
of
what
them
it is.
don't want overtime.
Oh, okay, I see
Right,
that.
we've told, the maintenance department that if any of them to, come in on a Saturday and knock out a lot of the smaller things, that they could come in and work on Saturday and
They don't wanna do
and
it?
actually get overtime pay versus comp time off, so. We've done a little bit of that, not as much as I thought we would, but we have paid a few, maintenance workers that have come in and worked on Saturdays. What Ms. Gibson said is a lot of them, just don't, they don't wanna work on Saturday. It's a weekend and it's outside of their 40 hours. For time and a half pay, it's there for the getting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'll tie this up. I won't ask anything else.
No,
Appreciate it.
that's fine, that's good. Actually, I'm on the last slide, I think. This is the budget facts about it. 74.59% of the total budget spent on salaries and benefits, total budget. 86.91, nearly 87% of the general fund budget spent on salaries and benefits. Budgeted revenues in the general fund exceed expenses by $874,000. Excuse me, and the additional ESSER funds have allowed us to spend federal dollars to relieve our general fund budget. Again, I was talking about the assistant principals and those salaries we were able to take care of with some of the ESSER funds. Our debt service expenditures are budgeted in the amount of $1,600,000. The 1 month operating balance of the proposed budget is $2,274,000, and the ending fund balance of the proposed budget is $5,792,000, or 2.55 months operating balance, and the ending fund balance exceeds the 1 month's operating by $3,518,000. Now, that is, I'm being real conservative on that number, because you never can tell how we're gonna end, and I think we're actually gonna end higher than this year than what we had intended last year, and so that number may go up as well. Although, I will say this, we did increase the salaries for the janitor and custodians, and we increased the salaries for the bus driver. All the salary increases was gonna cost us a good bit, so our operating budget actually is dropping a little bit, which is fine. That 2.5 is really a good sweet spot. Anywhere between 2 and 3 is a good sweet spot. So I'm kind of anxious to find out how we're gonna end, and when we do finalize all the financials and everything, to find out where we are on that. But I really think we're gonna be ahead of this, but I wanted to be conservative a little bit and go with what the numbers said. But I think we will be even better off than that 2.5, which is a great number. And did y'all have any questions on that? Or questions in general?
Yeah, where's the capital plan in here?
I didn't include the capital plan. When is our capital plan meeting?
I'll need to check with Mr. Williams on that. It's coming up.
Right.
Within the next week or two, I think.
Okay. So it's coming up in a couple of weeks.
But you have budgeted for capital projects, but you don't have the
That's
plan.
the debt service, mostly the capital projects. And I want to say that, and also when you budget it for the general capital improvement. So you have a lot, like the ordering the doors and stuff for maintenance. That is included in that capital money. So that's your normal maintenance budget, not necessarily the capital plan where we're building things, if that makes sense.
Okay. So you'll bring that to us.
Whenever we get through with the capital, and actually y'all are invited to come to the capital planning.
Okay.
And I'll take any questions or any comments on that. There's actually a form that's out there, and it's in the back of your book if y'all want to address any issues or anything. We can adjust the budget until next week's final hearing. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Action consent. Request to approve the purchase of 18 replacement AED units from Go Rescue / Trio Safety to replace all expired AED units in the amount of $20,734.30 from district general funds.
I make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approval of contracted services. The superintendent recommends the approval of the following contracted services. Request to approve the renewal of annual contract with Barbara Terry as nurse consultant. Payment of $6,000 for the 12-month period beginning July 2022 and ending June 2023 will be made from district general funds.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Request to approve payment to Henry Darden for playground equipment repair. Brent Elementary School, payment of $300 will be made from BES local school funds.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Request to approve payment to Rachel Fisher to provide district instruction, observations, IEP support, and material modification for hearing impaired students August 2022 through May 2023. Payment of $50 per hour plus mileage, not to exceed 3 hours weekly, will be made from IDEA funds.
I make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Request to approve payment to Ruth Baker to mentor speech language pathologist needing to complete certificate of competency. Duties include observing, writing reports, consulting, and performing duties required by the State Department for speech language pathologists, August 2022 through May 2023. Payment of $4,000 will be made from IDEA funds.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Request to approve payment to Stephanie Peak to complete, prepare, and implement software program for schools and create documents for various programs for special education. Payment of $5,742 will be made from ESSER II funds.
I make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Request to approve payment to Caroline Gilroy for majorette choreography instruction, September 18, 2022, West Blockton High School. Payment of $75 will be made from WBHS local school funds.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Request to approve payment to Bethany Fields for color guard choreography instruction, September 21st, 2022. West Blockton High School, payment of $75 will be made from WBHS local school funds.
I make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Request to approve payment to Bethany Fields for color guard choreography instruction, September 12th, 2022. Bibb County High School, payment of $25 per hour up to 2 hours will be made from BCHS local school funds.
I'll make that motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Request to approve payment to the town of West Blockton to provide security for 2022 varsity football games, West Blockton High School, payment of $125 per game as services are rendered will be made from WBHS local school funds.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? We'll now need a motion and a second to go into executive session for student discipline.
I make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
motion and a second to come out of executive session.
I make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, I have two items here. The first item, board members, is to recommend that student A be approved to re-enroll at Seminole Middle School effective Monday, September 12th.
I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Second item, recommend that student B be assigned to alternative school through the end of the first semester.
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, thank you.
Personnel action. The superintendent recommends the approval of the following personnel actions. The superintendent recommends approval of first-year preliminary team contract for Megan Pierce, math teacher, Bibb County High School.
I make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Request to approve the resignation / retirement of Lane Caffey, teacher, Brent Elementary School, effective December 1st, 2022.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Request to approve the resignation of Beverly Davis, CNP worker, Brent Elementary School, effective August 16th, 2022.
I make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Request to approve the resignation of Janet Beth Boyd, CNP worker, Brent Elementary School, effective September 1st, 2022.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Request to approve the transfer of Mitzi Fancher from CNP worker, Seminole Middle School, to CNP worker, Brent Elementary School, effective September 7th, 2022.
I make that motion.
Second motion.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Request to approve the transfer of Amy Phillips from CNP worker, Seminole Middle School, to CNP worker, Brent Elementary School, effective September 7th, 2022.
Make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Request to approve the employment of Nanette Upchurch as receptionist, West Blockton Middle School, effective September 7th, 2022.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Request to approve the following for Cubs after-school program, West Blockton Elementary School, for the 2022-2023 school year. Teacher aide, Tori Pearson. Student worker, Kaylee Barrett.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Request to approve Stephen Motley as assistant varsity football coach, West Blockton High School.
I make that motion. Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Request to approve Roger Cordell as assistant varsity football coach, West Blockton High School.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Request to approve Roger Cordell as head girls basketball coach, West Blockton High School.
Make the motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Approval of substitutes. Request to approve the following substitutes. Jennifer Davis, classroom substitute. Haley Leach, classroom substitute. J.C. Brown, classroom substitute. Linda Hilburn, classroom substitute. Kimberly Frederick, classroom /CNP/custodian substitute. Yvonne Sadberry, CNP substitute.
I make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Next board meeting / work session, board work session will be held Thursday, September 8th, 2022 at 1 p.m. And our board meeting will be held Tuesday, September 13th, 2022 at 5 p.m. We'll now have superintendent remarks.
Board members, thank you for coming in, this morning for our, budget hearing. Also appreciate, those of you that attended the AASB, District 2 meeting last week, and for representing our school system at that meeting. The work session this Thursday at 1 o'clock. Several things to go over on that day. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. And then our regular scheduled board meeting next Tuesday will be our second budget hearing. With that being said, we don't have to decide this now, but as typically happens every year, the second Tuesday of October, I will be out of town at the Superintendent's Conference in Florence. So at the board session, work session on Thursday, we'll probably discuss October's scheduled board meeting to be either Thursday, October the 7th, or possibly Thursday, October the 14th, because I'll be out of town on the second Tuesday, the 12th. But we can decide and discuss that on Thursday. Just remember to bring your calendars with you Thursday at the work session, so we can pick which of those October dates to have an alternative meeting date. Ms. Gibson, that's all I have. Again, thank you for coming in this morning.
Need a motion and a second to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.